Sure, thanks. I'll open up with the first slide here, which is how we like to open up our presentations here at Treasury Board. And before I go into the presentation, I'll just explain my role or my organization's role in government. So we are a central agency in government. So what we do is basically create policies for departments to follow. And in the past, I think policies have not really existed in this space. And with the recent introduction of a new Minister of Digital here, and a lot of other sort of very good muscle movements in the world of digital, we have been able to sort of put users first. And then we give this guidance to departments, and we learn from specific sort of issues that they're going through, and update our guidance. And our guidance resides in two forms. One is a design specification, and another one, it's good to know we're on the right track, Kevin, is a style guide. It's the Canada.ca style guide. So we use these two tools and constantly improve them. And why do we improve them? Because we want to improve the Government of Canada's digital presence. And fundamentally, we want to improve the tasks that people are coming to our websites to do. And why do we want to do that? And that's where this fact comes in. People have more important things to do than hang out on our websites. And I think in government, I find, and in a lot of other industries as well, there's this preoccupation with wanting to sort of grab people's attention and keep them on our sites for as long as possible. We are going the opposite direction. We want people to come on our sites, get what they need, and then get on with playing with their daughters or running their small businesses and things like that. It's a tough thing to sort of move on, but we are taking these steps very incrementally. And the way we do it, on the next slide, is measure. And I think government, we recognize that we have a problem. But it's kind of like, and the reason why I use a scale here is because we're kind of after Christmas, and some of us may have, put on a little unexpected weight. And the way to lose that weight is to understand, first of all, how much you weigh. And we take that very seriously. So we will find a task, for example, like finding a safety recall or understanding, I want to know if this product is being recalled. And then we measure it. And we measure it usually using moderated testing, and I'll get into those details later. And then it gives people an idea of, okay, we have a benchmark. We have some place to start from. We do the same with reading level. If something is, we find it difficult to read, that's not good enough. You need a number, you need a metric, as we have sort of heard from the previous talks as well here. So we measure because we ultimately want to improve task success, and we measure various sort of areas, and it really gives us numbers to work with, and it gives us evidence, and it gives us the ability to make evidence-based decisions. On the next slide, you'll see really the ways we measure. And this is sort of a sub-sampling of them, just some cool pictures to show you effectively. But really, the middle one is using heat maps, so or eye tracking, and there, actually this is a heat map, but we do use eye tracking as well, and it gives you an idea of where people are going for certain things, and it gives us layout ideas. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see sort of a moderated usability test where we videotape people using or trying to complete tasks using our content. And then finally on the left-hand side, the first one, the best for last really, there is we use a lot of tree testing. So we try to choose, we try to measure how successful people are in an initial tree test. Then we use that to adjust labels and actual words. And then we retest again to see if that improves. All of this really put together gives us evidence. And again, like the videos on the right-hand side that you'll see, you won't see the video, but we create videos. We take them and we show people struggling to read and understand the content. And part of government's issue is, and in a lot of organizations as well, is we're in our glass walls here, and we aren't connected with the consumers of the content that we're writing. And we use testing to actually create that empathy and bring the user into the boardrooms so that senior executives see people struggling with something and then they're compelled to fix it. We had a session once with a top task expert, Jerry McGovern, where he once brought up a visa requirement page for a Government of Canada program, and the team that saw it, and they saw users struggling with it, and they saw him talk about it, went back, and based upon that, they that evidence that they saw with their own eyes, they were compelled to want to improve it. So measurement for us serves multiple purposes, but at Treasury Board, we're trying to move a very large enterprise, which is the Government of Canada, towards caring more about users fundamentally. And on the next slide, reading levels are critical to this. A lot of people talk about systems and technical and technology things. For example, voice assistants and whatnot. All of this is driven by content. The words matter. And what we're finding is on the left-hand side, you'll see a particular task, someone trying to find out about road traffic and air pollution. And the readability on it is 14.3. Our targets are usually between grade 6 to 8 reading levels, because that reflects the North American population, who are the primary consumers of our content. And what we do is we have a team that goes in and works to sort of redesign this content using something called content design, and I'll talk about that in a second. And then through content design, applying plain language techniques and using what we've seen in the videos, we adjust the content. And it gives us a better grade level, as you can see, grade 7.3. Now, the grade level is part of it, but ultimately it's feeding into something called task success. On the left-hand side, most of our content is showing about a 50% completion rate, which is quite terrible, if you think about it. But after we go through and do some cycles of improvement, we're seeing big jumps of 20%, sometimes 35%. On average, we're ranging between 20 and 35% improvement just by adjusting the words on the page. And going back to something that Kevin was speaking to, having the lawyers, having the policy folks in the room help these changes go through much quicker. We don't have anything as systematic, I think, as Kevin was describing, but when we do these task improvement projects, we do our best to ensure that, well, we require program level participation so that they learn, they see the impacts of this, so that the next time someone comes around to wanting to improve something, they don't encounter resistance. On the next slide, you'll see another example here of applied content design. So really here in this particular example, the page was getting quite a high volume page around asbestos, getting over 13,000 views a month. It was quite popular. But the time people were spending on this page was just astonishing. I mean, 5 minutes to try to figure out how to do something here was quite challenging. We measured the readability at grade 13, and there's quite a few words. We use some design techniques that we have documented in the Canada.ca style guide to improve how this page is laid out. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see how that looks. So we applied a template, we chunked the content, and we used techniques to basically drive down the readability level. So you see it went from 13.3 to 7.8, which hits most Canadians now. Jumping back to the top, the actual visits to this page increase. So going back to what Jeff was speaking to, when you write clearly, your content is more attractive to search, and people can access it. And you can see that in the leap in access or reads that it was getting. And finally, and this is the last point at the bottom right, is we're accomplishing much more with less. And that is so big. I mean, people are constantly trying to write more and explain more and create backgrounders and FAQs and quite a bit more content. What we're finding, and which is huge importance, is the less we write, the more successful people are in completing tasks with our content. Moreover, the less content there is on a particular topic, the more successful people are in finding it. And it confuses search engines when you have 3 pages named health risk to asbestos backgrounder, health risk to asbestos FAQ. It doesn't give the engine basically a vector to follow on providing that information up front. And by decreasing the amount of content by reducing redundant, obsolete, trivial content, we've also noticed a big improvement in task success. So that's all I have to say really around the measurement piece and how successfully we apply it. And yeah, I look forward to questions on this.